Welcome to today's webinar on discovering WordPress for beginners. I am obviously not Christine. My name is Ryan Jones and I am the marketing coordinator at Connecting Up, and I'll be your webinar host for today while Christine enjoys a hard-earned break. Your presenter for today is Chris Drabsch from Daydream Graphics. Now he's going to take you through WordPress, which is one of the more common online content management systems that you can run your website based around. And if you have a look on our website, you'll find that we're running webinars on two of the other major content management systems available, and they are Drupal and Joomla. If you have a look at the Connecting Up website, the new website which launched on Monday, that was actually designed by Chris at Daydream, and that is a Drupal-based site. All of our Connecting Up sites run Drupal, so that gives you an idea of just different sites and different content management systems. If at any point during the webinar you have a question, or you are experiencing a technical issue for whatever reason, please either raise your hand or ask a question, and I will answer your question for you, and we will we'll give Chris the questions, the specific questions when he's ready for them. So without further ado, I will hand over to Chris for today's webinar. Chris, come in, Chris.
Hi everybody. Hi, good morning. So today we'll be taking you on a bit of a grand tour about WordPress. This will be a three-part presentation. The core of the presentation will be an actual live demonstration of the website, just to show the features of WordPress. Feel free to ask questions along the way, as Ryan mentioned. It's been a little while since I've done an online presentation, so bear with me if there's any technical issues, but we'll just try and iron them out as quickly as we can. I'll also be presenting a copy of this presentation as well if you require that, so I'll give you some information on that at the end. So let's begin. Okay, so I thought I'd begin by just talking generally about what websites are and how they've evolved over time, and it kind of helps you to understand what WordPress is, what its role is today, and its importance in websites. So the CMS is basically an acronym that stands for a content management system. Content is the information that actually goes on your website, so things like images, text, video, audio, that kind of thing. CMSs, they allow you to easily publish and maintain your website content. They can also vary very widely. You can have simple CMSs, you can also have quite complicated CMSs, you can have some that are purpose-built for a function, but you have others like WordPress that are quite adaptable and useful in various situations. So there are really quite a number to choose from out there, but there's really only a handful that are actually good enough for heavy-duty use. So just beginning, we've got a little bit of information about basically what a website is in its core components. Basically, before Web 2.0 came around the turn of the century, we had static websites which were predominant on the internet. And the way these websites function is you have a series of HTML files, and the HTML file is just simply a text file with some HTML code in it, and the browser will detect that code and render it on your screen and display the final output as you need it. So as part of that, there's also hyperlinks within this code as well, and these hyperlinks are all hard-coded into the HTML file. It's a fairly simple process, and it can be mapped out like a tree diagram, as you can see on the right there. So at the top you've got home page, and then you've got various links through to the other sub-pages that will link downwards into the various pages too. So that's kind of a traditional notion of what a website is, and you'll hear web designers call those static websites. The only issue with these kind of websites is that they're quite hard to update, and the issue is that if you want to change some sort of visual appearance about your website, for instance, change a graphic on header, or if you want to update a hyperlink, or you've renamed one of your HTML files, then it'll basically break your website, and you'll have to go through and hand edit every single HTML page to make that update. And it can be quite a laborious task if you've got hundreds of pages on your website. So moving into the post-Web 2.0 world, we enter dynamic CMSs. And dynamic CMSs are basically websites that are composed of all kinds of different files, and at first glance they look a little bit more complicated than a HTML-based website. However, the real beauty of these websites is that they're powered by a database, and so all of your website content is all hosted centrally inside a database, and it's the browser's job to go in and access the PHP files which render the database. And I've got a diagram coming up just to go through that in a minute. CMSs also allow for rich interaction. So in a nutshell, you can basically log into your CMS and you can edit your documents, your text, your images, just like you would be in a word processor. And a good CMS will also be very familiar as well, and we'll get on that in a minute about user interfaces and what you should be really looking for in a CMS, and particularly in WordPress. Also, it just generally allows you to manage your content much easier. So if we're looking at a CMS website, the user will see the front end of the website, which is like a welcome screen, for instance, on your homepage. So if a user wants to go to somewhere like your About Us page, they click a button on your menu bar, and that would make the browser issue a command to the web server to pull that information about that page. And the way it does that is that it will call for the PHP file, the homepage PHP file, and within that you've actually got references for the other files that are required to build that page on the server. So you've got the header.php, content.php, and footer.php, for instance. So basically the content.php file will have some commands to pull information from the database, and it'll query the database to that info. The database will then return that entry, and then the PHP file will render that up. The web server will actually render that PHP file up and turn it into a workable HTML file and display it on your screen. So the basics of CMS. You can find CMSs on Linux on Microsoft servers. Predominantly on Linux servers though. The majority of CMSs also use SQL databases to store their information, and you'll find that 90% of the time the classic website setup will be a LAMP stack, which is basically Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. A lot of these web hosts will actually offer these setups automatically configured. You might come across an application called cPanel, and if you register your website with a web host who runs cPanel, that will allow you to manage these various components very easily, and it's usually something that a more advanced website user would do, but by and large, if the tech support of the website host is great, then they'll be able to help you through all of this as well. And 9 times out of 10 you won't need to worry about most of it. It'll all be automatically configured on your website. So what you should be looking for in a good CMS is, firstly, how easy is it to learn? For instance, does the backend have a really user-friendly interface? And does it also present cleanly on the front end as well? And is it also very easy to style that content? Is it also easy for you to teach other people to use it, which is quite critical? Can you sit down with a coworker and collaborate on the website very easily? And can you also hand the keys of the website over to somebody else and have them pick up where you leave off? Third point is community support. It's really important to pick a CMS that's actually well supported by the community, has good forums, has good tutorials, how-tos, troubleshooting guides, and also you can gauge generally by looking at the website of the people that produce the CMS as to the general interest and the kind of activity levels on that CMS in terms of updates, things like that. Which brings me to my fourth point about is it easy to actually update your website? And fortunately WordPress is actually very easy to update, and I'll get to that in a minute. But a good CMS will have lots of bug fixes, lots of security hole fixes, things like that being published on a regular basis, and it's quite critical to ensure that your website is kept up to date and current to ensure that you minimize the risk of security holes affecting your site. And finally, the last question is it worth the price? Some CMSs are proprietary and they might cost money. A lot of other CMSs are also free as well and open source, so you can download them and use them unlimited amounts, basically. They've got a very liberal license. So really it's just a consideration to think, okay, do I need to pay for tech support, for instance, for this website? Is that necessary? Can I use a free website, free software like WordPress? Various questions that are quite important in working out which CMS is right for you. So just looking at the big three. So the first one is Joomla. Joomla is actually one of the older CMSs that's been around. It originated from a CMS called Mambo back around the mid-2000s. So it's quite well supported and it's quite powerful as well. And its back-end is quite user-friendly too. Drupal is probably regarded as more of a programmer-style CMS, but it's very robust and it's extensible, and it's also got a very big following, and online you'll find thousands of templates, plugins, contributions to Drupal, which is really good. Then finally, just bringing us to WordPress, which is the focus of the presentation. WordPress started off as a CMS basically focused for web blogs, and I'll get on to the difference between blogs and standard websites in a second, but since WordPress launched, it's actually evolved into a much more robust CMS that's used as a general purpose CMS for all kinds of different websites. It's very user-friendly and it's also clean and it's easy to navigate the back end. It's got a huge support base, and it's also optimized for SEO, which is search engine optimization, and social media integration as well. So currently WordPress is my personal favorite. I just find it's a nice combination of both Drupal and Joomla. But you'll find that each CMS has its own style, and at the end of the day it's really what's most appropriate for you. So moving on to the usage stats, I just thought I'd mention a couple of interesting figures. So the top 1 million websites online by and large use WordPress, about 63% there on the screen. And then that's closely followed by Joomla and Drupal. So that really does show the level of activity and usage of WordPress over the years. It's grown quite a bit. And also looking at migration statistics, you'll see the top 3 of the pie chart there, basically people moving to WordPress. So it's actually got quite a healthy uptake, and it's also a platform where it's very, very easy to bring your content in, and I'll go into that in a second in the live demo. So moving on to part 2. So you have a couple of hosting options for WordPress. First option is self-hosted. So this basically allows you to host all of the files that power WordPress on your own local website. And there's a couple of advantages to that. If you have local hosting and your visitors are predominantly based in Australia, you'll find that you'll have a bit of a quicker website than if your website's hosted overseas somewhere, for instance. So you can control where your site is hosted a lot more easily. You can also point your website domain directly to a WordPress installation on your servers and have full control of that. You can also manage the traffic that visits your website, so you can control things like server loading and things like that. The basic way to get WordPress onto your server is to just download the zip file from wordpress.org. Sometimes the web designer will help you out with that, or the web host company. And also going back to the topic about cPanel, you can also use a module within cPanel called Fantastico, which actually allows you to download these files very easily and set up the database and not really worry too much about all the complications behind that. So the final point there is about control, and going back to that point again about owning your own files. It's really it's something you don't really think about as an afterthought, but it's really quite useful to have full ownership of your own web service, so you can set up the server as you need it and let it grow over time as you develop more traffic. The other option is also WordPress.com, and it's a little bit confusing. The two URLs are quite similar, but the .com website is basically blogs and general websites that are hosted on a central server over in the US. It's very quick and easy to set it up. It's just a matter of hopping onto the WordPress.com website and clicking on the Get Started button, and then you just register an account, and then you're pretty much ready to go. So it's actually really, really good for doing a simple website test or just getting a feel for WordPress in general. So there's also free and ad-supported accounts. Then you've got the option of upgrading those accounts later on. And going back to my point about being very easy to demo a website, it's quite useful to just throw a few things up and just have a quick presentation and play around with how the website's structured, and then you can easily migrate that content out of the site as well later on when you're ready to go. And the point again about free account having limited control, that also includes things like doing templating, which could be a big issue if you want to have a website that's 100% branded to your brand. You might find as well that you might not be able to install things like plugins, things like that. So those are other considerations to take into account if you are looking at this option too. So now we're going to move into the core of the presentation, which is basically a demonstration of WordPress, and I'll be taking you through the basic features of WordPress, and then we'll advance into some of the more technical parts of it as well. So I'll just back out of here and I'll load up the browser. So here I've built a simple dummy website. This is known as the front end of the website. So this is the part of the website that the public can access. And the basic components of this website, you'll see up here you've got your header area. So for instance, you've got your title, search bar, header image, menu bar, things like that. So this content here would be contained inside the header file in the template, and I'll touch on that in a bit. The posts basically run down the side here, and that's known as the main content area, and then over here you've got the sidebar area as well. So you've got recent posts, recent comments, categories, that kind of thing. So managing each part of this, the sidebar especially editing content, that's done separately to editing posts and pages and things like that, so we'll introduce that soon. And the back end, on the other hand, is where you actually log in to edit the content on your website. So I've got that open here, but normally to get to the back end in WordPress, you would basically type in the full URL for your website, and then you would type in wp-admin, and that would bring you to the back end here. And as you can see, there's a login page. So when you set up WordPress for the first time, you'll be given an opportunity to create an admin account for WordPress. So you just put in your credentials for that, and you can click Remember Me if you like. It depends if it's a privately used computer. If this is somewhere public, it's not a good idea to do that. You can also find your password as well if you lose that. So we'll just log in, and you're presented with the dashboard here. So the dashboard is really a summary of everything that's happening within WordPress at a glance. You'll see for the first time when you've installed WordPress, you'll get this helpful little screen here that'll give you a little bit of information about how to get around, but we'll just dismiss that. So the dashboard is actually probably the #1 useful feature about WordPress. You can instantly see how many pages, posts, categories, and tags you've got. Also how many comments have arrived on your blog since you've last checked, and whether these need approval or whether you need to reject them in spam and things like that. So you've also got a little comment panel down here, so you can see the latest comments that have come through. You can also add an option to have these comments emailed to you as well, so you don't have to log in and check this all the time. You can just get real-time updates on who's commented on your site. And there's just a few other useful things like quick press. If you really just want to fire off a quick blog post or page, you can use that panel there. But it's generally advisable to actually go and create a new page or post altogether. So I've been talking a little bit about pages and posts, and this is probably a point of confusion for some. Pages are really they function essentially like a static page, and you'd use them for content that doesn't change much on your website. So an About Us page, for instance, if we just go back and have a look at the dummy site. So if we click on the samples page here, you can see the layout is just fairly simple. The content is very straightforward and is like much, so pages are useful for that kind of thing. Whereas posts is more a entry in the chronological order of posts. So you know, things like blog posts, latest updates, news, alerts, things like that. You generally post them as separate articles, and then they would show up in a feed, essentially like this on the home page. So, so that's the real distinction between pages and posts. So let's have a look at editing pages. Now, if we go over to pages, we'll take a look at the page list view. So there's just one page here at the moment, and gives you a quick rundown of the pages on your site and also the hierarchy when you've got more here. But we'll just click, you hover your mouse over the page title and you've got a few basic functions, so you can click Edit. And we have the sample page here. And the main features of editing WordPress are you've got your title here, which you control. The permalink as well, and the permalink is something I'll touch on in the advanced stage, but in essence it's the friendly page URL for your website page. So if you go to xyz.com/about-us, that's a permalink that's been rewritten for, you know, easier memorability, things like that. So you can switch that on and off later on. So if the permalink doesn't match the title, you'll need to manually edit that. You just click the edit button and type in a more sensible permalink there. So we have the main editor here, and by the way, there is a little triangle down here you can pull, so you can get a bit more of a view there. So the editor here has a toolbar at the top, very much like Word, if you've used that. So you've got bold, italics, things like that. Your web designer will also set up a bunch of preset styles. So heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. You'd want to use those pretty sparingly, but there might be a subsection in your page where you want to, you know, highlight that with a new section heading, so you'd use something like heading 2 for that. And editing the text is very straightforward. There are a couple of very useful features in this toolbar though that often get looked over, but if you're bringing content in from something like Microsoft Word, and if you've pasted that into this screen here, you'll often find that it'll bring across a lot of bad code into the web page, and when that renders on different browsers, it'll often cause the web page to look a little bit ugly, or it might break, or, you know, not render how you wanted it to render. So you do have an option here where you can paste from Microsoft Word, so you can click on that, and then you have a window here where you can actually right-click and paste your content in here and click Insert, and that will actually format the content correctly for WordPress and ensure that it renders correctly. Failing that, you can also just paste it as a plain text insertion. So plain text is just the next step down. It'll basically put your text in without any formatting at all, so you can just use WordPress to reformat it, and that's often a good backup in case the paste from Word option doesn't work. There's also an Insert More tag, which is useful too. So for instance, if I click the Insert More tag and I want to insert a line break in here, so let's just put a little more tag, and I'll just click Update and I'll show you what that does. So if this page was longer, it actually paginate content. Also, it's more applicable to posts than pages. But what it'll actually do is it'll split this page into 2 and give you a read more link, which is quite good if you want to shorten content that's a bit lengthy. And it helps you also define the important content that you want to feature in a category view, for instance, and then the user clicks the read more link, and then they can read the full article. So there's also useful things like spell checker, you know, things like that. But we've also got the HTML tab up here too. So if you're familiar with HTML code and you want to edit something directly, or you want to clean up a little bit of code that doesn't look quite right, you can actually click the HTML tab here, and you can directly edit the code, which is really useful. So one thing to note here is basically there are a lot of sort of tags and things thrown in here, so if you do make an edit and you accidentally delete a bracket, it will break the website pretty heavily, so just keep an eye out for that stuff. But it's very useful if you just want to clean something up. Now we'll get to the other column here just briefly. We've got Publish over here, so there's Preview Changes, which is handy if you want to look at your content before publishing it live. If this is a new page, you'd have, actually I'll just set this up now, so I'll just go to the Add New page up here. I'll leave that page. So you'd have 2 buttons. You'd have Save Draft and Preview. So saving draft is basically what it says. It will save a draft locally in your back end, and you won't see that public until you actually click the publish button. You can also change the visibility of a post, so you can hide a post or a page, which is quite handy if you just want to take something down quickly. You can also set a timer to publish content, so if you want to publish something in a week's time, you just click the edit button here and set the calendar date when you want to publish that. And there's also, for pages, there's page attributes, and you can set a parent to a page, which is useful if you want to start having sub-pages in the menu and things like that, and you want to keep your content orderly. And also templates. You can have specific template pages as well. So for some pages, for instance, you might want to have a sidebar displayed, but in other pages, like for this page, for instance, you can't see a sidebar at all. So that's controlled by the page template. And finally, you'll see the last feature down here is a featured image. So featured image is essentially the thumbnail of an article that is representative of that article. So if you go back to the home page here and we see the example post, you might see a list of thumbnails. Actually, if I click on a category, no, it's not doing it in this template, but some templates will actually display a quick thumbnail there, which is a summary of the actual page itself. So that's useful. So we'll just take a quick look at posts as well. Posts, for instance, it's a very similar interface, but there are a couple of little differences. For instance, there is a format box here, and this is actually a brand new feature of WordPress. It's only been out for a couple of months, but this is very much like a page template function, and it will allow you to control the presentation of your page, your post rather, in a more finite way. For instance, if you've got a lot of video on a page and you want to have a special view for that, so you might want to have more full-screen videos for that particular post, that kind of thing, you might set the video format, or galleries as well. The other component too is categories and tags, and this can be another point of confusion, but basically categories are really useful for larger categorization of items. So you might have a lot of items that are being posted in events, for instance, versus a lot of items that are posted in projects or how-to. So that's a quick and easy way of categorizing things, and you can actually click add new category and just create a new category there as well, so that's very easy to do.
Hey Chris, can we just go through a couple of quick questions?
Absolutely, yeah, sorry about that.
That's alright, no worries, you're getting excited, that's fine.
Good.
Charles would like to know if it's possible to paste HTML code directly into the editor.
Yes, it is. So if we go back to the HTML tab here, and we click on that, and then you select your HTML code from the Dreamweaver page editor or from Notepad, wherever you have it, and just paste it directly in here in the HTML editor, and that will render that code correctly.
Great. Which version of WordPress are you using for the demonstration?
Yeah, this is the latest version, and I believe that is up to, I'll just check the bottom of the screen here, 3.4.1.
Perfect.
Yep.
What is the showcase template?
Showcase templates. I will just find that. I think that would be, yeah, I'll just bring that page up. So do you have a little bit more information on that question? I'm just trying to find the exact location.
Not yet. Catherine, are you able to provide me a bit more information on that? While we're waiting for a bit more information from Catherine, how do I add more options to the edit menu bar?
Yes. Okay. That's controlled in the user accounts. There's also a plugin option where you can add more buttons to that toolbar. What you're seeing here by default is pretty limited, and it's for general purpose use. But if you have some specific buttons that you'd like to put up there, things like different source code editors or more formatting options, things like that, you can control that through the user account. But There's also, maybe if I have some time at the end, I might just show you a quick plugin that will allow you to extend that toolbar a little bit more to be more useful.
Sure. Bit more information from Catherine. When you were on the page, it showed the showcase template as an option.
I see. Yep. I'll just take a look. Oh, okay. Yep. So the showcase template, that's actually specific to this particular theme, but I'll just switch it on and we'll just take a look. So I'll just set that. Okay, so that might actually, just having a quick glance at this, I think what that actually allows you to do is to take this page content and attach it to the top of a category view. So you can see here it's got a quick summary. This is the page content here, and then it'll actually display posts related to that category, I believe. So that's actually not a bad feature, and that's a specific template feature. So not all templates and not all web designers would probably have that built in to start off with, but for the default template we're using here, that's certainly an option. So that's good. Good spotting.
Sure. Okay, a few more.
Yep. Maybe I'll take two more and then I'll pause in about 15 minutes. And
sure. Yeah, there's a couple here I reckon might get answered shortly. So,
yep.
How can Word table data be entered and displayed?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think you can try using the paste from Word option. I'm not too sure how that would go though, but I can have a quick demo actually. I'll just see what happens. So if I just go, just create a new blank document, and I'll put some tables in. Oops.
And do you remember off the top of your head what template you're using?
It's the default template in WordPress, which is, I'll just go to themes. It's called 2011.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, so. Yeah, so I'll just draw us a quick table now. Test. There we go. Now I'll select that entire table and copy that, and I will try and paste it in here. So I'm just clicking the paste from Word button, and then I'll paste that table, and so far so good. And it looks like it's actually pasted that in successfully. So you can actually copy tables directly from Word and put it in the paste from Word command, and that will display it nicely. So.
Right.
Great.
And
okay,
one more comment from Simon. Just useful to note that some of the things in the interface will be different if you choose a different theme. There are some things that are theme specific.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a really good point. And a lot of the time, especially in a typical website design project, you'll sit down with a client and you'll talk about exactly what requirements you'll need for the website and what you don't need. And you'll find that the web designer will often write a lot of custom features into the template to do specific features. So that's one of the beautiful things about WordPress is it's very different and it's got a million different applications. So if we have some time, I might be able to just show another quick theme as well and,
sure.
and give you a bit more of a tour of that side of things. So, but I'll come back to some more questions in a few moments.
Yeah, no worries.
Because there's a fair amount to cover yet. So we're now just up to the point where we want to insert some images. So up to this point we've been manipulating text, but up here we've got an upload and insert command here. So if you hover your mouse over this, unfortunately it's a bit of a small icon, but it's add media. So you can click on that and you can directly drop images, video, audio files, PDFs, you name it. You can drop it into this file area here, and that will upload your files automatically and insert that into the media library. And just before we get to the media library, you can also insert content directly from a URL. So if you go to a web page and you want to insert an image from the internet, you would right-click on the image and copy the URL, and then you just paste that URL directly into this box here. And it's also a very good idea to give your images and your other objects to give them titles, and that's good from a user experience point of view, and also accessibility. People who use screen readers, for instance, if you don't assign titles to rich media content, then they won't be able to detect that on their viewing browser. So that's it's very good idea to use titles and alt tags as well, which is the next thing down here, alternate text. So you can also give images captions too, which I'll get onto. But looking at the media library here, so you can see there's already a few images that I've uploaded earlier and inserted in here. So you can effectively just click the show link here, and that will reveal the information about the image, where you can change the alt text, the captions, things like that. Also how you want to display the image, whether you want it position left or position center or right to text. And finally, you've got size options down here too, which is useful. And if you do upload a very large image, you want to control the general size of it. So let's just insert a medium-sized image here. So just a matter of revealing that image and then coming down here and clicking Insert into Post. So that's placed our image in here. And if I'll just update the page and we'll take a look. Okay, so that's placed that in there, and it's very basic formatting, and there's nothing special yet. But you'll see that you can also click on that image, and it will load up that image in a larger view if you want that. And you can use plugins to control how that image displays. So at the moment, it's rather unelegantly displaying the image in the browser, but you can do all kinds of interesting things, like have a special pop-up and the background fade out, and you know, that's a really nice presentation style you see on some sites. And the final tab down here is featured image, and you can set that through the image editor or through this little panel down here. But if I click on the image, you can see there's an edit image button, and there's also a delete image button. So we'll just click edit image, and you can control the scale of that image as well, and edit those basic features. Advanced settings, that's if you want to go through and re-edit the title again. There's also an interesting feature down here, which is target. So if you actually want that image to load up in a brand new web tab, you just click that check mark and click update, and then that image will pop up in a brand new tab, and the user can then just close that window and come back to your website. So that's quite useful too. And that also applies to things like PDF files and things like that, so that's really handy. So I'll just update that page. Now, moving on to some of the other features of WordPress, there is a media section here, which it gives you a bit more control over the different objects in your website. So we'll click Library here, and you can see in greater detail the various items. So you can do various bulk actions, like if you've got a bunch of images you don't want. So for instance, we've got these ones here, these duplicates. So I just click the check boxes next to them, and then I click delete permanently and apply, and that will get rid of them. So that's quite useful. Comment section, so there's a bit more of a detailed panel here for that. If we just click on comments, and let's for instance, I'll just go through and I'll make a random comment on the front end. So I'll just click this comment button and click post comment. So you can see that at the moment the comments are set up so that they will display automatically on the website here. You can control that so that you have to moderate comments before they go up. So that's a setting in WordPress. But if we take a look at the comment panel here, we can see that this is the comment that I lodged here, and it's got my email address and IP address and things like that. And that will just display the content of the comment, and you can unapprove this comment if you want to dismiss it. You can also mark it as spam. So one of the unfortunate things about putting up a WordPress site is initially you might attract a bit of spam on your site, and there's a lot of different utilities and plugins you can use to combat that, but I find that the best way to do it is just to switch off unmoderated comments and just go through it yourself and mark it as spam. It really depends on the volume of comments you're getting though. And you can also just edit that comment yourself, which is actually quite handy if you, unfortunately, if you have to censor somebody. So, yeah, there's all kinds of different functions you can do here, which is fantastic. So now moving on, there's just a little bit more to cover here, but I'll try and get it done as quickly as possible. So firstly, themes, which was a topic which was brought up earlier. So there are a number of ways to obtain themes. You can go to a theme directory online and browse for themes. You can also use WordPress to search for themes as well, I believe. There's an install theme. Yeah, so if I click here, for instance, and we'll type in green as a search term for the theme, click search, and then you can see all these very interesting different themes show up. So, and it's just a matter of clicking the install now button, and you're ready to roll. And we'll take a quick look at one of these. So I'll pick this one. And there's a really handy function called live preview, so it'll actually show you the theme of your site without having that template applied, which is really, really handy. So, and you'll see here that WordPress has gotten to the point where you can even edit. This theme's a little bit simple, but you will also see options like changing the background graphic or changing the color of headings and things like that as well. So different theme authors will have different options on their various themes, so it can be a bit mixed. But that's really, really handy. So, and the other thing, I've actually just accidentally closed the back-end window here, but there is a really useful feature up the top here. If you are logged in as an administrator of WordPress, you will get a little menu bar up here, and that will actually allow you to edit the most basic features of your site at a glance, which is really, really handy. So if I click Edit Posts, for instance, we'll get back into the editor here, which is really useful, and I'll just pop open that in a different one. So we're just moving quickly through this, but the main advantage, you'll have a choice as to whether you want to download a theme online or if you want to hire a web designer to come up with a custom theme for you. There are advantages to both. You know, it's very simple and easy to find a free template online. However, you have to consider a couple of things. Firstly, copyright and intellectual property, which can be an issue, especially if you're trying to build a brand and you want to protect all the assets of your brand. If you're using a theme that you've used that's found online and other people are using it, it can be a little bit tricky to try and claim that as your own IP. So it can be very useful to have a theme developer come in and create a custom theme that you can have 100% ownership of, and that leads you into things like trademarking as well. So that's a really important one. Also, a custom theme is generally, it's better for your brand. If you want to, if you want to communicate your brand more accurately, if you want to ensure that your theme is appropriate for your target audience, generally it's very handy to have a designer help you out with that. Also, you can control exactly what you need in the theme and what you don't need in the theme. Some of the themes out there are pretty overblown and do a lot more than they need to. So, it's quite nice to have a very lightweight theme that just does what you need and is very snappy and well written and coded beautifully and very SEO friendly as well. So those are the things to consider when you're choosing themes. There's also plugins as well, which is very useful feature. So plugins are essentially third-party modules that have been written by other people, and you can find them online. There's actually a handy little search function here inside WordPress, and they let you extend the functionality of your WordPress site. So having a look at the plugins I've got installed here, I've got a contact form plugin, which is a pretty common one, Contact Form 7. There's also a couple of other ones. Akismet is a default plugin that helps you manage spam in your comment section. Coming soon pages is really useful. That's if you want to put up a holding page while you're building the website and you want to just have a countdown timer on your holding page, or you want to have Twitter feed or something like that to keep visitors engaged before your site goes live. That's quite useful. But if we just do a search for plugins, so if I just go down here and click Add New, and I'll just type in, let's just do Contact Form again. You'll see there's plenty to choose from, which is really great. But if you click details, that'll give you a bit more of a rundown on what that plugin does, and also, very importantly, what version it's updated for. So, for instance, we're up to, well, actually, there's also a compatible up to function here as well. So this web installation is up to version 3.4.1. But if you see a plugin that's compatible up to 2.8, for instance, then it may not run properly on your site, and may actually make it quite unstable and insecure. So that's just something you got to be wary of as well. And here you can also see user comments and feedback and things like that, which is quite good. So there's just a couple of tiny things I just want to cover quickly because we've got about 5 minutes left. So there's users down here. So you can actually create new users if you want to have co-workers come in and work on the website, and you can assign them different roles. So this one, by default, the administrator role is assigned, so that lets you come in and edit absolutely anything on the website, change plugins, change themes, you name it. There's an option in here, if I just click edit, where you can promote or demote people. So you can just have an editor section. If you just want somebody to come in and just edit blog posts or edit pages and do nothing else on the site, that's very simple to configure. So that's quite good. And you can also see here in the name section there is a nickname. So you might have a username like CUPres, for instance, for this one, but you might want to have the public CU as CU admin. So you can change how your public image is presented on the website too through there. So that's good. We have just a couple brief points here about maintenance. There is sometimes you won't see it on this one because it's the latest version of the software, but you will see a little yellow banner pop up here on the dashboard if your site is out of date. So that's something to keep an eye on. If your web host is pretty good, they'll have daily backups of your website, so it's fairly safe to update. If something does break, then you can always roll back to a previous version of the site. It's not a big deal. But that's just something to consider. Updates are very, very useful, but you just want to make sure that your plugins are also compatible with that update as well. And you can do that. You'll notice down here in the plugin area, there's a little one inside a circle here. So that's just in the update plugin that needs to be updated, and it's just a matter of just clicking the Update Now link, and it will magically grab the plugin off the internet and update it for you, and then you just activate it, and you're ready to go. So that's actually, it's really quite simple to keep your site current and up to date through WordPress. The other option was permalinks, which we touched on earlier. By default, your site will be set up to have permalinks switched off, and the reason for that is just compatibility. But what that means is that if your website URL links will have question marks and numbers and equal signs and all that kind of thing in it, and it's quite hard to memorize those links, make them user friendly. So if you go into settings and click permalinks, you have various options for different permalinks descriptions here. So the default one is the one I described before, but you can set things to be like /2012/August/sample post, that kind of thing. So that's really quite good, and it's also very, very good from an SEO, search engine optimization point of view as well. The more accessible and human readable your content is, the generally the more favorable it will be online. So that's really good. The final one is homepage settings as well. So just going back here, we've got the home pages set up currently to just display the most recent posts. But if I wanted to have a home page that's just a static page, for instance, that would be you'd go into settings and then you find, I think it's writing. No, maybe it's reading. There it is. So front page display, your latest posts, a static page option is there. So if you select that, then you click front page to be the sample page. And I'll just quickly save that and show you what that does. So we'll just refresh the home page, and there we've got a page that we were working on earlier as the home page, which is really great. So that's the demo component complete there. I'll just flip back very quickly. A couple of useful resources and links. I've just got 1 minute left, so I will run through these very quickly. But there's a website called OpenSourceCms.org. And this actually lets you have a trial run of all these different, actually sorry, that's not the website, I think it's .com, Open Source CMS. Actually I'll just search for it. That's it, sorry, yeah, it's opensourcecms.com, that's the one. And this will let you play around with various live demos, WordPress included, but also Drupal, Joomla, you name it. So this will actually save you having to set it up on your server beforehand. You can just jump in here and have a bit of a play in a sandbox, which is really great. There's also a lot of useful WordPress tutorials on YouTube, and if you just go to YouTube and type in WordPress tutorial, you'll find thousands and thousands of these videos, and they're all really quite useful. And I prefer to learn new features about WordPress that way, so you can actually see somebody demoing it out and trying it out visually, and it's a lot more easy to kind of comprehend it. So YouTube's really handy for that kind of thing. And there's also finally a WordPress help site as well, and a really useful forum. But if we go to, I'll just do a search for this one, but WordPress Codex. And this is really kind of like a reference manual for WordPress, and it's probably something you'll turn to if you want to get into heavy-duty theme development or setting up WordPress to be a little bit more robust. You might want to actually, WordPress has a really good feature which lets you host multiple sites inside of WordPress installation, and you want to read up more about that, then you can head to the Codex, which is really useful. You'll see here there's a section here about learning how to use WordPress, and it'll cover a lot of what I've talked about here so far, but then it'll get into the more heavy-duty stuff like theme development. If you want to write a plugin at one point, you can read all about that. So there's also APIs here which actually allow you to hook into custom systems as well. So if you've got your own custom database, for instance, you could write an API to let WordPress pull information from it. And there's also APIs written by sites like Twitter and Facebook, etc., that actually allow you to integrate your content from those websites back into WordPress and put it out of WordPress into those sites too. So once again, WordPress is just very robust for that kind of thing. So I'm just going to wind up by saying thank you for being a part of this presentation. It's been really good to have you on board for this, and I'm just going to flash up my email address if you have more questions or if you wanted a copy of the presentation too. So thanks again.
Okay, Chris.
And I'll open the floor to questions.
And we have a lot of questions, so
Great.
Let's try and get through them as quickly as we can.
No problem.
Are you able to search on categories from the front end of the website?
Search on categories?
Yes.
Yeah, you can. There is a general search function here. For instance, actually, if I just switch back to the post view, that's going to make it a bit easier to demonstrate that. So just update that. Okay, so you've got a number of options for searching. There is a simple search bar up here, so if I type in, I've got a lot of dummy text here, so I'll type in the first word of that. That will actually bring up your posts nicely there, and it will show you the excerpt where that that reference is. But there are also little metadata links down here which will let you, so for instance this article was posted in alerts, so if I click on that, then it will show me all the posts that are related to that option as well. And some, actually we didn't go into the sidebar area, but there's more info on the WordPress side about that, but you can set up your sidebar to show categories as well. So,
well, that probably answers Nick's question about tags.
Okay. Yep, same procedure for tags. Actually, if I made a tag up, let's just tag this page as free information, and then I'll click add down here. So that's tagged that page as free information, and over time you'll have a thing called a tag cloud, which is all your keyword tags displayed in a single area in the sidebar, and that's another way of basically categorizing your information as well. Very quickly, in the appearance section, we've got widgets. Widgets are controlled. Widgets control your sidebar area here, And it's just a simple matter of dragging and dropping widgets into that area and clicking the drop down to edit those widgets as well. So let's just drag the tag widget in here, the tag cloud, and I'll click save. And then I will just refresh that and we will see, yep, tags, free information. So I click that and there you go, that's the tag post. So beautiful. So yeah, that's it.
Great. Using WordPress, is it possible to set up an area for members with separate passwords for each to enter their area?
Yep, that can be done through a number of ways. There are a lot of plugins out there that will do that. You can also set a page to be protected from view or a post as well. So you may want to give a select group a single password and protect some components of your website. So if it's a premium content or things like that, you can do that. You can also have users create and register their own accounts through your website, and then you can actually control what the user sees on a more granular level. You can switch posts on and off and things like that for different users. So there are multiple ways of attacking that, yeah.
Great. Does WordPress provide a sitemap view?
Yes, there are plugins that do that. There's a couple of good ones. If you go to the plugin area and we search for the keyword you want to look for is directory, and also sitemap as well. But you can see there's all kinds of different directory plugins here, and that will allow you to basically produce a dynamic sitemap. And that once again is very good for SEO too. So if you've got your sitemap somewhere on your website, that does encourage SEO, so that's good. Sure
thing. Can you create tables in the page post editor?
Yes, you can. It requires, I think it requires a special plugin to do that, but I'll just take a quick look and see if you can do that by default. I think, yeah, the default button system here doesn't have a table button, but if you do a search in the plugins for a plugin called TinyMCE, T-I-N-Y, letter M, letter C, letter E, and then you'll see all kinds of different plugins here that will let you enable the full version of that toolbar. I think TinyMCE Advanced is a good one there. But that will allow you to insert tables, all kinds of different things that aren't normally in there.
So what is a plugin though, Chris?
Yeah, a plugin is really a third-party module that's been written by an author that isn't contributing to WordPress, or some plugins are written by WordPress themselves as well, but generally the ones online are just written by WordPress enthusiasts that have found some kind of issue with WordPress, or maybe it doesn't do something in a certain way, so they've actually written a module to help others do that function as well. Some plugins are well written, other plugins aren't so well written, so it's really a matter of trial and error, testing things out and ensuring that your plugin, that whichever plugin you choose, is well supported and frequently updated, and also does the job more importantly.
Great. Am I able to just drag and drop an image into the visual editor from a Word document?
Your best bet is probably to save the image first out of Word. I haven't actually tried copying and pasting images yet, but I'd say probably from an image resolution point of view, your best bet is probably to insert them directly from a JPEG or a GIF file on your computer as opposed to through Word, because once again, Word can affect images and text in strange ways and could make your image blurry or something. So yeah, it's best to upload them as actual objects. So.
No problems. Joy's got an issue about the control of text formats.
Yep.
She can set her font and size, but when she edits the text, the formatting often changes. Have you got any suggestions apart from having to go into the HTML code to edit the page?
Yeah, there's a really good button you can use to just remove all the formatting on some text. So if I just go back to the page editor and just go click edit. So for instance, I might have copied and pasted text from Word and it's come out all red, green, and blue and pretty hideous. basically I just select that piece of text, and then there's a little button up here called Remove Formatting, and it's got an icon that looks like a little eraser. If I click on that, that'll just scrub all the formatting. No, it should scrub all the formatting anyway. It doesn't want to. Oh yeah, it's actually gotten rid of the the red, but it hasn't changed the boldness. So I think that's actually because the formatting in this example is actually correct. So it's not fixing it. But if there was all random bold and italic tags and things in it, you can click that button, it'll scrub it. So that's really useful. Are there any more questions?
Absolutely. Does WordPress integrate with SMTP mail sending?
It depends what you want to actually do with it. If you want to run a mailing campaign and that kind of thing, you can use plugins to integrate with MailChimp and send WordPress posts out as you publish them into an email campaign software. WordPress isn't really designed to be sending emails or receiving emails, but the plugins that you install will automate that part of it for you. So, for instance, the contact form plugin, if you just simply download that and activate it, the chances are that if the plugin's well written, it will actually send that email on your behalf, and you won't have to worry about configuring a SMTP server or anything like that for it. So,
but other plugins checked by anyone? Can I trust all the plugins?
Yeah, there's a couple of good ways to check that. Looking at user ratings is really important. So if I just go to the plugin view again, and I'll just do a search for contact form. So there's a rating module here, so you can see this one's 4 stars, 5 stars, that kind of thing. If you hover your mouse over it too, it'll tell you how many ratings came up with it, what composed that overall rating. So, you know, if you see something like 3 stars and there's 200 people who have rated it, then it's kind of an average plugin. But if it's 5 stars and you've got 500 people who have rated it, then it's probably a really good one. And I should just point out, so if I go to, I think I can do it within WordPress here, but if I just go to details, it doesn't seem to let me do that. I'll go to the wordpress.org site and I'll just show you this very quickly. Oh, by the way, I'm happy to stay on for a few more minutes, you know, if we have to, so that's fine. So I'll just go to plugins here. So you can also use the WordPress site to search for plugins. So let's have a look at this one. Now there's a really useful feature down here which basically lets you pick which version of WordPress you've got installed and then pick the plugin version as well. And if there's enough information about it, it will actually show you whether that plugin is actually good for that installation of WordPress. So sometimes that'll be green, and that means that a lot of people have voted that it actually works well for that installation. But it'll also be red if it's broken or not updated, that kind of thing. So that's another extra level of security you can view as well.
Am I able to create my own theme within WordPress?
Not necessarily create one from scratch. There are a couple of good themes that will let you customize things enough to allow you to essentially make your own theme, but there's a very, very simple editor in WordPress. If I go to themes and then click down here to editor, you can edit the PHP files and things like that, but once again, it's not the best way to do it. You'd either want to write something from scratch in something like Dreamweaver, or there's a couple of other good programs like Notepad++ and things like that, which are really good for code editing. So you can edit your code in that and then upload it to a theme folder in WordPress. So that would be my recommendation. Other than that, you know, once again, some of these themes, like if I click on 2011 here and then I've got theme options, you know, I can do basic things like, do I want this theme reversed in black? So if let's just update this again. So this is now the alternate theme, the black theme, I suppose. So yeah, it's a bit hit and miss sometimes, but you can do the basic edits. Yeah.
Great. If you already have a theme set up, are you able to view it without having to change the content, or does it edit it accordingly?
No, you can view it. Well, basically the content is independent of the theme. So really, if you're changing themes, you're not going to change the actual content itself. But there's, I hope I've interpreted this correctly, but there's a live preview option as well, where once again, if I've got this theme that I installed earlier here, and I click live preview, that's actually going to show the basically a mock-up of your website, how it will look without publishing that change online. So, so that's actually a safe way of testing to ensure that your theme is actually working well. And I think if I can actually click through it as well and see how things like tables look and that kind of thing. So that's actually really useful. So, yeah.
Excellent. Couple more. How does WordPress integrate with social media?
Yeah, it's really good actually. You'll find that WordPress is probably the most supported CMS out there for it. Drupal and Joomla are very well supported too, but I think it's a bit of a no-brainer with WordPress. It's it's got RSS feeds out of the box. It's also very easy to go into your Facebook page and use a Facebook app to pull in your content from an RSS feed in WordPress. Also, I mean, the way we've got our personal website set up is that every time we do a tweet online or a Facebook message online, it'll actually show the Facebook or Twitter feed in the sidebar of the website, and it'll display that information accordingly. So to actually give you a demo of that, I probably don't have enough time to do that, but it's really well documented on YouTube. I know that. So have a look online for integrating WordPress and social media on YouTube, and you can't go wrong.
Excellent. Can I use a custom font for my content?
Yes, to a degree. There is a really good service called, let me just think, Google. I'll just type Google Web Fonts and see what comes up. Yeah, if you go to google.com/webfonts, so these are all, this is known as web fonts. Web fonts are slightly different to the fonts you install on your computer. They have to be hosted on your own server, or if you're using the Google Web Font service, then it's just a URL reference that you put in your theme to make them show up. It's a little bit of an advanced technique, but fortunately the Google Web Fonts site makes it pretty easy. So if we add this font to our collection, for instance, and then I'll click the Use button down here, then the Google Web Font service will take you pretty much through all the things you need to do to host that font on your site, or rather reference it, and how to actually use that font in your CSS document to change the style of your headings and things like that. So, so if you want to have a play around with it, your best bet is to go to google.com/webfonts and take a look around there.
Alright, couple more and then we might have to call it a day.
That's fine.
Can you show us how to upload a link to a newsletter document?
Yeah, say if it's like a Word document or something like that. If I go to the page or a post, it doesn't really matter, but if I go to pages, now I think the simplest way to do this is to just find something on my hard drive and do this. So we'll just go into here. Okay, so let's say, for instance, I want to attach a Word document or a PDF file to this web page. Firstly, I'd want to type the piece of text out that I want to hyperlink. So let's say click here for more information. So I select the words click here, like that, and then I go up to upload/insert and click the add media button. Now you get this nice little drag and drop panel here. So so if I just pick the Word document I want to put up there, I just literally take it from my Explorer window here, and I'll just drag and drop it into here, and you'll just see it's just uploaded that. And then I click Insert into Post. Now what it's done by default is it's changed that text length, so the text of that. So if I just type click here, that will get it back. Oops. Actually, it's probably easier if I hover over, if I just click inside that link and then I'll go up to the toolbar and click Insert Edit Link. Then it should, no, actually, sorry, that's the wrong area. I'll just type click here in there, and then I will delete that. There's still a few things that WordPress need to work on, but if that's all done, and then I click Update, and I'll just go back to our web page and let me take a look at that sample page. So here we've got click here for more information. Then if I click on that link, then it will set up that document to download in my download folder, and then I just open that up. So that's it. I think we've probably got time for one more question.
Excellent. I've only got one left now.
Okay.
Paul would like to know, paragraphs will not move down when he hits return.
Yep.
Do you know why this could be, and could this be fixed using the HTML mode?
Yep. You can fix that with the HTML mode. Again, it depends on the exact how the theme was written, how well it was written as well, as to whether it will format things properly or not. But if you are having some trouble, you can, like, say for instance, I've got this little miniature paragraph here, and I want to set up a breakpoint here. So I can click on the HTML tab, and this might be a little bit hard to see on your monitors, but I'll give it a shot. So if I find that piece, so I'll just put my cursor in this spot here, and then if I type, firstly type two angle brackets, so a left and a right angle bracket, then move your mouse cursor back into the middle between the two brackets and type /br. No, sorry, actually it's BR and then space and then the / underneath the question mark. That is actually a break tag in HTML. So if you copy and paste that 2 times, for instance, that will put 2 breaks into your page. Now, just for argument's sake, I'm just going to put in 5, and then I'll click Update. And if we just refresh this page, now I think some browsers will ignore the other break tags in there, so or it could be a theme thing as well. It might be set up to ignore that, but you can see here that it's now split that sentence in half. Well, it's actually split the paragraph in half and spaced out that content a bit more. So give that a shot. If you need me to follow that up in an email, just drop me an email, and I'm happy to help you out there. So,
all right.
So I suppose that's it.
Excellent. Well,
great.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Thanks, Chris, for providing that great demonstration.
No
if you missed anything during the webinar, we will be putting a recording up after the webinar. Hopefully, I've done the recording properly. There are a few people asking a few more questions about general CMS concepts and how to pick the best CMS for them and things like that. I highly recommend, during the month of August, we are running another free webinar on Drupal, which is my personal favourite of the content management systems, as Chris well knows. And we are running a webinar on Joomla as well, which is another very common one, particularly within non-profits. So if you watch those two in the coming weeks, all the details are on our website. That will give you a better idea of the concepts and how things are handled differently by the different content management systems. Chris has provided his email address, and my email address is rj@connectingup.org. You can always contact me and ask me any questions. If you've got anything else, then just touch base with Chris or myself after the webinar. But thanks for attending.
Wonderful. Not a problem. Thanks, guys.